Okay, morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tutorial, this week's tutorial at least. Not what the number it is, but this week's at least. Today we're going to cover objects and classes just to first off clarify certain things. Again, if you have questions, throw them into chat. I'll do my best to answer them while doing the lecture. Let's not disconnect there. Okay, so again, objects is an instance of the class which helps programmers to use variables and methods inside the class. Okay, so again, an object is an instance of a class. It is not a class, it is the instance, it's the creation. It takes up physical memory, it's a physical existence. It acts as it's like a variable of the class. Object consumes memory. As mentioned, an object can be declared several times depending on the requirements. So of course you can have more than one object of the same type, the same as you had with record structures. You had more than one type of the same record structure. You can have more than one object of the same class. Classes are blueprints, as mentioned quite often. They're used to create instances. They can be used to bind data methods into a single unit. Logical existence classes do not use memory and only declared once. Okay, thank you for the suggestion. We'll do that. I guess that is true. With people asking questions, the videos are hard to watch as well. Okay, we'll try and reserve questions for near the end. Okay, so is everyone okay with objects and classes? The basic idea. So object, class. Okay, keep that in mind. Object and classes. Okay, the class is generally it's the data type. So the example we're using today is the Social Society for Puppies. Local Society for Puppies has approached you to develop a visual basic application that will help employees of a shelter home to manage the various puppies they've taken in. Your program needs to work out how much it costs to keep the various puppies in the shelter during certain periods. So it needs to work out how much the cost is going to be to basically feed all the puppies while being looked after. Requirements. Your program must handle any number of puppies as well as any number of days. You're not sure how long they're going to be there for. You may assume each puppy is kept in the shelter the same number of days at least, so there's not a problem there. When a puppy is processed, the following information about them is captured. Name, breed, gender, age in months. Each puppy is weighed to determine how much food they must be fed. Okay. The weighing is done on a daily basis. Okay, I think that's the one thing missing from the slide. The weighing is done on a daily basis. To work out how much food must be fed to a puppy on a day, the formula is following for each 500 grams or part thereof. So if a puppy is 750 grams, it counts 2. So you kind of round up. So for every 500 grams, a puppy must be fed 10 grams of special puppy food. The special puppy food is sold to the Society of Puppies per kilogram. The user needs the information from the program to the user needs the program for the the user will need to sorry, I'm getting confused by my own statements here. The user needs to enter the program of the price per kilo. Okay. The program must display the following: name of the puppy, the weight each day, the total food fed to the puppy over the entire period. They must also display the total food that was fed to all the puppies. The total amount of money spent to feed all the puppies must also be displayed. So this is what we need to display. So going back here, let me ask a question. Is the price of the food part of a puppy? Nope. Okay. Okay, so is everyone okay with what? Now, the thing is, remember, we've got to bind and collect data that is in connection with the same class. So we're going to create a puppy class. Okay, I know we should be doing design, but again, I'm a bit worried about time and load shedding and that for the other students as well. So if you are on a battery laptop, you might be running out on low juice. So the design process is important. So we need to establish certain things. Do we have more than one puppy? Yes or no? Yes. Okay, good. Are we going to manage them for multiple days? Yes, good. Okay, so each puppy is name, breed, gender, age, and weight per day. Okay, that's missing from the slide. We'll correct that. A function or method of the class is to work out how much food each puppy must be fed. Okay, so we have to have the weight and then work out how much food to feed said puppy. Okay, and we're given a rough calculation that per every 500 grams, we must give 10 grams of special puppy food. And then we are told that we have to provide the price. Yes, there's an array in the class. Okay, that's important to understand. Weight is an array. So remember, we have to know the weight per day. That's where the days comes in. The top here says same number of days. That's why that's important. Now, what's part of the class and what's part of the puppy class is important to differentiate from the actual interface. Okay. Yeah, correct. So we must put an array weight in the class. Okay, we're going to get to that now. I'm going to work through making the class, and then we'll work through how to use the class. Is everyone okay with that approach? Okay. So let's get to it. So of course we go there to sort the name. We go and add class, and a class is called puppy.vb. Option statements are always on, or the correct ones are on. And then explicit. Okay, so each puppy has a name, a breed, gender, age as double, weight, age in months. So technically it can be integer or double, but we'll go with that. And private weight as double. Okay. Again, those are all the attributes or instance variables that make up a puppy. And not an object, a puppy class. Remember, we're designing the blueprint for a class. We're not designing anything else. So there's only things that relate to a puppy go here. Now, we're not going to have a constructor because your question didn't actually require for a constructor. We're going to have remember, can we access these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instance variables outside the class? No, okay. So what do we need to give access? Remember, we have to give access. How? Property methods. Excellent. Okay, we need property methods to provide access. So we go public property name string. Now it's important to make sure that you have the correct, actually, let me show you what can happen here if you do something slightly wrong. Okay, I spelled the string incorrectly, but notice that it's immediately transferred here. Okay, so make sure that your spelling is always correct, and if it does, you do make a mistake, just correct it both here and here. When it auto-generates based on whatever type it's returning. Remember, a property method is something unique because it both returns, it's both a function and a subroutine, because it has a get and a set. So it can return in terms of a function, and it can set in terms of a subroutine. So it is both in a sense. Okay, then we're going to need a property method for breed, gender, and age. So public property breed as string, it return breed equals value, public property gender as string, it we'll get to that point. Okay. Also notice I'm always saying equals value. The value comes from the set. Just to illustrate that point when I do age. Public property age as double it. You can technically call this X. It's not going to really do anything. Just that when you say age equals X, you must make sure it links up to that. Value is just automatically generated. So that's where the value comes every time. Now, something that we didn't get a chance to discuss on yesterday's lecture, which is in yesterday's lecture slides anyway, is something about validation. And I will discuss it on tomorrow's theory lecture, but I want to also show it here. With property methods, it's also important to keep in mind that we must be, there's also a second ability beyond controlling how a person can see and access the information. There's something about controlling how they set the information. So if I write this, does this make sense? Does that statement kind of make sense, what I've written there? Just that section I'm highlighting right now. What is it doing? Any ideas? Again, ladies and gentlemen, you don't get marks or marked down for guessing. You guys can guess. Okay, this is known as something as validation. It's something that a property method is part of property methods. Okay, so what I'm doing is controls the age, correct? It ensures that if a person enters a negative age, I won't work with a negative age. I work with a positive age. I can't have it. We'll see if we upload the code. It is in the thing. It is in the video. The code isn't going anywhere. So what is happening here is saying that whatever value I get, if value is greater than 0, then it's a valid value. Don't really care if it's 0.1 or whatever. As long as it's above a 0, we accept it because we're working in months. But if they give us a negative, I'm just going to default it to 1. This isn't entirely correct to do. It is entirely the most appropriate method to do. We will show you a better method. But for now, this is the easiest approach to do. So we just set it to a default value of 0 or in 1, depending on what type of value you're working with. But this is not invalidation. This ensures that whoever works with this class won't make mistakes. Okay, so they can't blame your code for the mistake. So your code also checks to make sure the information coming in is the correct information. And this is part of object-oriented programming. It's part of ensuring the correct values. Now let's work with the weight. Now this is the more interesting one. We need to make sure that we are, actually wait. We might have a constructed yet as yet. Let's just look at it. So we also have to have a public property for the weight. Now with weight, do we return all the weights or just one weight for a specific day at a time? Okay, because that's the two options we have. So we want to try avoid, both options are valid, just depends on how you program, but we can make it that the person doesn't really know that there's or doesn't have to interact with the right way to say it, directly with the array. We give them access to each element in the array. To do that, we need to provide additional information. We need to provide an index to indicate the location we're working with. So our property method gets an index. What this does is when we return weights, we don't return weights as everything. We return weights on a index. So we return a specific weight. Now, would it make sense to validate here as well, ladies and gentlemen? Would we validate the weight of the puppy? Correct. Okay, can the puppy ever weigh a negative value? No. So of course we do a similar thing. We say if value is less than 0 or is greater than 0, then weight at index equals value. Else, we can say default weight is default weight is 100. Okay, 100 grams. Can we validate the index? Yes, you can validate the index. That's another level of validation. So that you actually would say that if index is greater or equal to 1 and index is less than weight dot length, then and if index equal to 1 and index less than weight dot length, I'll explain exactly what I'm doing now so I get the code in. So I heard a pop-up with a message, and if okay, so what I'm doing here firstly is I'm saying that as long as index given to me is between 1 and the length of the array, we work with it. If it's between 1 and the length, we work with it. If it's not between 1 and length, that means it's indexed out of bounds. That means it'll return an error if we actually invoke it. This is not, you can have it. I'm not going to worry about it today, so I'm going to remove it for now. Okay. But you can have it. It's in the recording, so it's not something that will be deleted entirely. No. Index is not tracking. Index tells me which location. So I can actually change this to location. Maybe that'll make more sense. Index is tracking the location of which day. Remember, weight is an array. So the variable lock for location tells me which day. You can call it index, you can call it lock, you can call it day. It doesn't really matter. But its purpose is there to tell me which day, which value of the array I'm working with, because I have an array. I need to know which one I'm working with. You can include validation for the practical, yes. We don't expect heavy validation, but you can include small validation like this. Okay. Everyone okay with the property methods? Any questions about the property methods? Okay, nothing's coming up. So I'm assuming you guys are happy with the property methods. Okay, again, the purpose of the property methods is to grant us access to the instance variables. Okay, we're going to get to where value is passed in the property methods. Can I please go over weight again? Okay, let's first consider the instance variable. The instance variable for weight is an array. Okay, so we have to keep that in mind. We're working with an array. Unlike name, breed, gender, and age, we're working with an array. So we have more than one weight. We have weights. Okay, so for every day, we have to return a weight for the puppy. So for each day, we have a different weight, because the puppy's weight will change every day. So this is where the property comes in. So we have a location. I prefer index actually. And we have an index as a parameter saying which day do we want? What's the weight on day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4? So that's also something we're taking in consideration. Okay. So keep that in mind in what we're doing here. The point of this property method is to give us access to each index in the array. Does that answer your question about the weight array? Okay, cool. Okay. Then we had a function. This is the next thing we have to look at. So let's go back to the code. Okay, because remember, we want how much food, the total food to be fed to all the puppies. You must also display the total food that must be fed to each puppy. You must also display the total food fed to all over the puppies over the entire period. So we need to know what the total amount of food must be fed to the puppy. So we need to work out that. So for that, we need a function, a public function. We need to access it. Total food weight as double, maybe. Okay, so we need a dim total as double equals 0, and we need to return the total, whatever the total may be. So we need to now work out what the total is. Everyone okay with that point? So we need to go through each day, get the weight for the day, and see how much food the puppy must get. Per every 500 grams, they get 10 grams of special puppy food. Now, when we in the class, this is something I still need to discuss in the theory lecture as well. When we in the class, we need to work with the array. Do we access the property method or do we access the instance variable directly? When we in the array, when we in the class. Any idea? Okay. I see a lot of you saying directly, some saying property method. Those saying directly and property, you both kind of right. Okay. The reason for that is depending on the scenario, depending on what you're doing, you will access either the property variable or the instance variable. Because if the property variable has validation and we're setting values, we use the property method to make sure we keep the validation. If the property method doesn't really have validation, it doesn't really matter as long as we're in the class. So it's something you have to weigh the options on. There is no fixed rule when to use what. It's more about what is the correct and most secure approach. Remember, we're trying to keep things secure. So for d as integer equals 1 to... Now, we have a problem. Where does days come from? Where do we suddenly have days? No, remember, we're not dealing with a form right now. You're correct saying it's a user input. The user gives it to us. But how does this function get the days? We can use wait.length, correct? Okay. Now, end days will exist in the form, not in the class. It's got nothing to do with the class per se. Question is, yeah, is -1. Thank you. Length -1. For those who are unsure, the reason for this is more about VB, to make sure we don't go over the cap of the array or the size of the array. Remember, with VB, when you set the size of the array to size 10, how many elements do we actually get? Let's see how well you remember first semester. Good. Okay, you get 11 elements. Remember, in VB Magical World, it decides that it creates index 0 and on top of everything else. So, but the thing is, one thing I want to point out, I'll discuss it in class when I get a chance as well. Most programming languages work from 0 up until the size. So if I actually set an array to size 10, it goes from 0 to 9 in any other language. VB is the only one that goes 0 to 10. Okay, so keep that in mind, please. VB is the only language that I'm aware of. I might be wrong, but it's the only language I'm aware of that decides that the array goes from 0 to 10 if I set it to size 10. Other languages will go from 0 to 9. So just keep that in mind. Now, now we got a thing. How do we actually work out how much food? Because we have a condition. We have to get the weight, yes. Okay, we have to get the weight. So let's just bring out a piece of paper, because let's bring out Word. Because we've got to keep this in mind. Interesting ideas. Because remember, if the puppy is 500 grams, they get 10 grams of special pup food. If they 650 grams, they get 20 grams. If they're 1,000 grams, they get 20 grams still. If they're 1,350, they get 30 grams. Remember, we're working in terms of 500 grams. Seeing some interesting oscillation things. Wait, okay, let's look at that. I'm going to cheat slightly while you guys are thinking. Okay. Keep thinking of solutions because I'm interested to see how you guys are going to do it. Grams. Yes, grams. Where is this going to pop up? It's no mistake. I just can't see what you guys are writing right now because I'm on a different screen. Okay, remember, every time the puppy goes up a bracket, it gets additional 10 grams. So we've got to work out how much food the puppy gets. So if the puppy is 650, it's the same if the puppy is 750. Also gets 20 grams. So we don't consider I'm seeing some very interesting code. Times 50. Aha. You guys are throwing some interesting things. I like the one. This one's interesting. Weight divided by 500 times 10. Just remember, add the brackets. Right. That's going to throw us an error. Because if weight is 650 divided by 500, then 1.3 times 10 gives us 13. Okay, so we've got to think of another one. I'm looking at the other solutions that were proposed. I see you got the mod symbol. Mod is something we do look at. Remember, what does mod do? I remember how. I remember how I've done it before. There's a sneaky way. Okay. Let me ask you this question, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sure if you ever were taught. Is there a difference between these two? What? What's the difference between the forward slash and the backslash when it comes to VB and math calculations? Now, this is something that I don't think you were taught last semester, as you might not know at the time. Forward slash is division, correct. So, but what type of division? I can see some of you guys are coming up. This is division. This is a division. I'm not going to say by double, but it's a double division. If I say 650 divided by 500, it gives me 1.3. I'm okay with that. That's the one you're used to, the forward slash at least. Everyone okay with that point? So this is your normal division that you've been working with up until this semester. You guys okay with that? Okay. Now you get something else, which is the backslash. This is an integer division. Division. Okay. So when I do this, it gives me 1. Okay. What it does is it doesn't give me the decimal. It gives me the integer value. So if I divide 1350 by 500, by normal means, I'd get 2.7. By this calculation, I get 2. You can't see what I'm sharing. I'm sharing. Is it only one student that can't see what I'm sharing, or is it everyone? Okay, so it might just be a slight issue with the connection. Okay, so this is known as integer division. So instead of getting 2.7, we get 2. Everyone okay with this point? You guys slowly trying to see where I'm getting to. Some of you may, some of you might. Some of you might be understanding it, might be seeing where I'm leading you with, and some of you might still be getting there. We'll get there slowly. Who of you remember long division? I know it's a painful memory from high school, but long division. Remember, you get your main value and your remainder. Okay, primary school, my bad. So you get your, what is it division and remainder? What is it? So this is our main value. Our remainder is what? 350, correct? Oh no, the remainder is 350, not 1. With long division, you would get the whole value. You wouldn't get just the decimal. We don't want the decimal. We want something more. We want a proper value. Okay? So if I do this, let's keep working with the 135. So let's say the puppy is 135. It should get 30 grams of special puppy food. Everyone okay with that? Because its weight is in the 1,000, it's in the 1,500 gram range. Remember, so for every 500 grams, they get 10 grams special puppy food. If they are in between, they count it as the next one. So we almost round up. We always round up. That's also another way to do it. No, we can't. We don't round down. So we always rounding up. So we need to get what this would be. So if I say 135 integer division 500, this gives me 2. Then I say 135. I'm going to do a condition here. If 135 mod 500 is greater than 0, then plus 1. So what is this doing? This is first doing an integer division to see how many values of 500 I have. In 1,350, I have 2 values of 500 because I have 1,000. So 500 plus 500, 1,000. Everyone okay with that? So I get the 2 from. Okay. Now, also keep in mind, if the puppy, no, this is also important to keep in mind. I see some of you are asking certain questions. I was going to do something here. If the puppy is 550, how much grams of food do they get? 20. 20. You must keep looking, keep the question in mind. For every 500 grams or part thereof, they get 10 grams. So if the puppy weighs 750, it counts as 2 times 500. So the puppy, even if the puppy is 550, it still counts as 2 times. Even 501 still counts as more than 500. So we need to keep that in mind. And this is where design comes in, ladies and gentlemen, because right now I'm designing my solution. I'm trying to figure out how do I get to this value. I'm working out the steps I need to follow. I need to first figure out how many values of 500 I have. And then I need to check, do I have any remainders? Do I have anything left over? If I have anything left over, that means I need to add an extra 1. And that's where this comes into play, the mod. A mod gives us a remainder. So if I divide anything, or if I mod anything by 500, and it is above a 0, it means there is something extra. Be it 1, be it 350, be it 499, there is something extra. That means I add an extra 1. So I would end off with the answer of 3. And I times this by 10 grams, and I get my amount of special puppy food. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're breaking it down to simple steps. First, we've got to first figure out how many values of 500 we have. Then we're going to say, okay, that's good. Now we know we have 2 groups or 3 groups or whatever groups of 500 grams. Then what is there anything left over? Because we need to still check. So yes, it's going to be included. So let's go back to the code. And total food per puppy. Remember, there's a total food per puppy. So quite simply, we say that total equals weight D divided by 500 if, okay, this is integer, because it's always going to give us a whole value, sorry. This is an integer division. Total shouldn't be a double. Total is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Going up in grams. I think it's complaining about weight being a double. Yeah, it's complaining about weight being a double. Total shouldn't be a double, no. We don't want total to be a double. We can do this. This is also another option. Okay. No. Round down, no. This is actually a slightly cheatier way of doing it. To allow for weight to be a double. Yeah. This is a cheatier way to do it. So what this does is converts whatever this is to an integer. So it cuts off the extra point. So it'll still work. Then we say weight mod 500 greater than 0, then it's going to mod D. Then we say total x equals 1 and total times 10. Okay. So what I'm doing here is a slightly cheaty way, not a cheaty, but a hacky way to do it. Cint automatically cuts off any decimal. So going back to Word so I can explain what that means, is if I do this, I don't know, some of you guys might have done this by mistake. Cint 2.7 becomes 2. It cuts off the 0.7. So what I'm doing is Cint 350 divided by 500 gives me 2 because it cuts off the point. No, we're not concerned with total. Okay, going back to that question, that's an important question. Here, we're concerned of weight. Remember, we're trying to work out if there is any if there's any leftover weight that we can work with. Because right now, we're working with the weight, not the total. Total is how many grams of food. So if we have 3 for total, we have 30 grams. If we have 4 for total, we have 40 grams. So here we're trying to say is if we mod by 500, is there anything left over? Is there any little bits left over? So is the puppy 650 grams? So then there'd be a remainder of 150. If the puppy is 1,350, the remainder would be 350. So there's a value left over. So we simply add 1 to give us the extra 10 grams. Okay, the reason it didn't work earlier is weight is a double. I could technically make weight an integer because, like the one person has said in chat, you don't really have milligrams. We're not going to measure the milligrams of the puppy. So we could make it a integer, that's true. Then it would work. But This is the way I've chosen to do it. Okay, let's see if it works. So we've got our class fairly flushed out. Let's start working with the form. Okay, first off, the form needs a name. So FRM tutorial. It's for the support puppy. We need a initializer. Okay. We need an input and display. And we need to calculate. Then we need to display this information. So back to a grid. What is mod? Mod is a command in VB or a command in any language that will return us the remainder. So it'll give us the whatever's left over. Let's actually call this setup. Call this read in. Let's call this btn calculate, and give it the text calculate read in values and set up application. Got a grid, so grd display. Let's go into code. I just want to get all the buttons in place. Okay. Again, I'm going to be lazy. I'm just going to do that everywhere. Open, strict, explicit. Now we're in the form. Okay. We need to create we need to have certain things. We need to have private puppies. As a puppy. We need to have private in puppy and in days as integers for now. What else do we need to have? What else do we need to have? We need our subroutine. Sub PRR as integer. C as integer. String. Why did you come with? On spell. We have grd display dot row equals r. We have grd dot display dot col equals c, and now grd display dot text equals t. No, mod is not modulus. Mod is let me get the mod VB. If you want to read that, there's the link for mod. 7 mod. Yeah, okay. Ms. Van der Westhuizen can deal with those couple of questions. Then we keep going. Okay. So in setup, first we need to know is the number of puppies. Number of puppy equals cint input box. Please enter the number of puppies. I'm going to do that in days equals cn input box how many days are there? We need to look after these. Now we need to resize the array. Okay, now this is where things get interesting. And this is where a lot of you need to pay close attention. Resizing doesn't mean creating objects also. Puppies and puppy. I'm going to come back to the creating puppies in a second because there's a problem we have to deal with. Let's do the grid. The grd display dot rows equals n puppies plus 1. grd display dot calls equals n days plus. Now let's just see what else we have to display. We have to display the name, 1, the weight each day, the total food. So that is 1, 2, plus 3 for the index. We also need 2 text boxes, I think, to display the total food that all puppies must be fed and the total price. That's the one thing we're missing as well, is we don't ask for the price. Private price of food as double. Good question. That's what I'm going to get to, and that's why I'm slightly putting that off right now. Price for food. The question asked is how do we resize the array of weights? DBL input box. I'm going to explain that in stages. Is enter the price per kilo for food. Okay, so we need that. We need also to display the total food and the total amount of money spent. So we need a label, a text box. Total food. Total cost. Cost. Total food. TXT total food. TXT total cost. Okay, so we have now all the needed outputs. Why does that keep coming up? Oh, now we're using grams. We're not finished. We're not finished. Bear with me. We will get there. Private. Keeping track of time, so we'll finish in time. The setup is always. I'll attempt that. I will try to show you the design. So we need to do for p as integer equals 1 to n puppy, and we need to go and put base results 0 p. Wait, no. P0 puppy, and we need to go and say place results 1 away 10 name for D equals 1 to num in days. PR 0 1 plus D wait day E, and PR n days plus 0 total food, I guess. And let's see if that works. As always, we test if it works. Five puppies, 3 days, 100 Rand. Okay, the name went pear-shaped, the total of food went pear-shaped, everything else. Okay, the D plus one, I'll show you what that's for now. So that's 0, 1, 0, 0, comma. Okay. Five puppies, 3 days, 100. So we've got puppies 1 through 5. We've got name, weight 1, weight day 1, weight day 2, total food. The D plus 1 is to skip the first row or skip the first column. You could rename the puppies. I generally don't. I have the name separate, so I know this is puppy 1, puppy 2, the name, the details. It depends on the programmer. That's up to you. You can change the names and have the weights. This is the way I'm choosing to solve the display. Okay, now that's the easy part. The part I've been putting off slightly is making the objects. Now, a question was asked earlier, and quite importantly by Zeta. How do we resize the weight per puppy? Remember, weight is an array. Okay, so we got to resize each puppy's array to a size. So what is it that I discussed yesterday in class? Constructors. Okay, this is where constructor starts to fit in. In order for this object to be built, it needs one resource. It needs to know how many days. So we need to go to the puppy and create a constructor. There's other ways to do it, but this is the most applicable way. So we go public subnew days as integer, and we say readem weight to days. Okay. So what we're doing here is we're saying when we hire the constructor to build the house, when we employ them, we appoint the constructor, we need to give them supplies. We need to give them information. Same as building a house. In order to build a house, they need the concrete, the bricks, the manpower, etc. In this case, it needs information. It needs days. This is the trick. You instantiate and resize at the same time. Because when you call the constructor, we instantiate the object, and the exact same time we also we resize the array. So we're doing it at the same time. A constructor is always a subroutine, yes. A constructor, keyword new. Everything else is just part of it. So that's the constructor. So in the form, now let me ask you this: does this look correct? Let's see how much you guys remember from first semester. Does that look correct? What's wrong with it? Okay, I'll explain the reconstructor. Excellent, excellent. I'm happy to see the no loop. The parameter's fine, the loop's the problem. I'm happy to see some of you picking that up. Ladies and gentlemen, if I do this, there's no error. I'm only creating an object for which puppy? This is not going to be all the elements, it's going to be n puppy, correct? So I need to say for p equals 1 to n puppies, is integer, p. So now I'm saying for each puppy, create a new object and give it a number of days. So here is my constructor. Actually, here's my constructor. And this is my initialization for each single object. So once this line of code runs, I create 5 puppies, 6 puppies, 7 puppies, whatever. I create my puppies. They're done. The objects exist in memory. I can start to work with them. You guys okay with that? Okay, cool. Again, those who are watching the recordings, please, if you have issues with what we've done, you're always welcome to throw them in the Discord channel and ask questions. So now we need to read in, because now we have our objects. Now this becomes the easy part. Now it's just reading in and displaying. Hopefully I don't need to explain too much yet, because this part will look very, very, very familiar to you in terms of what you've been working with. I'm saying the object, not the key, name input box, what is no, oof, is the name of the. Okay, we've got to display that, so PR puppy column, and we got to display the name. Then we read in the rest information per puppy. And remember, the rest information is breed, gender, age, and then weight. We don't necessarily display it all, but we have to read it in. So I'm going to do a breed, gender, age, double. Okay. Ooh, fail copy and paste is what is the breed is the gender, what is the age. In 4D as integer equals 1 to number of days. Weight at D weight's a double. C, D, E, L. What is the weight for puppy 1 on day 1? So here we read in the name, we display it, we read in the breed, the gender, the age, we read in the weight, and we can display the weight. So PR P dot D plus 1, convert to string, and we can start to test again. So setup, let's have 3 puppies and 4 days, and the price is 100. So I can be very imaginative. A, breed A, gender M, age in months 6, weight 100. Well, let's be realistic. 500, 550, 650. Weight is 700. B, female, age is 5 months, 600, 650, 700, and they had a big meal. Then C, female, age 7 months, and okay. So the basic input's done working. Everyone okay with that? Any questions on what I'm doing here? Remember, when I'm calling name, am I accessing the instance variable or the property method? Property method, good. Okay. Remember, when we're calling name, breed, gender, age, and weights, we're calling the property methods. We're calling those methods that we've created to access the data, to control the data. Those are what we're accessing. We're never accessing the instance variables. We're going through the property methods. Everyone okay with that? Okay. So the last section is to work out how much. Oh yeah, for total food, I should have just shown. I could show you right there. I think is total food I need to display. I see I'm also starting to run out of time. Total fed to the puppy over the entire period of time, which is actually quite simple. I will do it here. Base results. I know you guys have seen this approach before, but we'll go with it. 10 days plus 2 years. Puppies. E dot total weight. String. So I'm calling the function total food. Okay. This is the function we made. Let's see how it works. Set up application. 2 puppies, 3 days, 100 Rand per kilo. So, what is the name of the puppy? A, gender, male, 6 months. Let's go something test for specific. Let's go, the weight is 500, 550, and then 1050. So that should be 10 plus 20 plus 30, but we're only getting 30. So something's wrong there. Something's wrong here. Something's wrong here. Something's wrong here. Something is wrong here. No, you can't calculate the total in the form. Add the current total to the previous total. But that's what I am doing. I am going for each day, getting the amount per day and adding it. Oh, I know what I'm doing wrong. That. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to point that line out there so you guys can see it. So when I run it, you'll see it should now give me what I'm looking for. Again, 2, 3, 100. A female, 6 months. 500, 50,000. 50. So 10, 20 plus 30. So 10 plus 20 is 30. 30 plus 10 plus 20. Oh, that's 20 as well. Sorry, that's also 20. Let's just check with the next one. The next one, I'm going to try and make it 60. B, male, 6 months as well. 500, 750, 135, 80. So that's 10, 20, 10, 20, and that is 3. What the hell? Am I getting something's wrong here? That's 10, that's 20, that is 10, 20, 30. So 30, 20, 5, 6. No, something's wrong here. Something's very wrong here. First one is 10, then it is 20 plus 20, which is 50, which is correct. The second one is 10, 20. This should be 30. 30. That should be 6. Let's have a look at my code. Total. I'm going to break the code and see what it's doing. Okay, let me just stop it so you guys can. So I think my logic is correct. We'll see what happens now. 2, 3, 100. A female 6 of 750 1350. Okay, so 1 2, the length is 4, so 1 to 3, yeah, that's correct. Total starts at 0, that's correct. Let's step in. Total is 1 because the first value is 500. This should skip. Good. Next weight is 750, so it should give me total is still 1. It should add 1 and then do this extra 1. Yeah. So total is now 4, which is correct. Then it should loop back in with a weight of 1350. So that should give me total is 4. It should add 2. At 7. 1350. This should add 1 only. And it gives me 8. Am I missing something? Let me just write test data for this quickly. 500. Let's do it on the screen so everyone can see what I'm doing. 500 should give me a value of 1. 750 should give me the value of 2. 1350 should give me the value of 3. 6. Why is it going to 8? Why is it going to 8? It's 1, it's 2. The code is going to 8. It is 350, it is 750, it is 500. I wonder if the sun. Wait a minute. Okay, let's change something. I want to see something and see if it is what I think it is, and I can explain to you what's happening. Then CENT is working differently to what I remember it working. Where's an error? Okay, 2 puppies, 3 days, 100. A email 8, 500, 750, 1350. And let's go through it again. Go slightly faster because I want to see the end result. 6. Okay, then I know what's going on. Okay, my assumption of CENT was incorrect. I assume CENT just deleted the extra value. So if it is 2.7, it just deleted the 0.7. It seems to round. I'll need to verify this. Let's just see something. CEnt round. Aha, it does, damn it. Okay. So my assumption was wrong. I think Ms. van der Westhuizen has just verified that as well for me. By getting no, he sent me the docs on it. So basically it was the remainders. So what is happening is, instead of going, when it was going 2.7, instead of going 2.2, it is going 3 and kept bumping it up. Okay, so it was incorrect to use a CEnt. I should have actually changed the weight to being an integer, because we're working with grams, not milligrams, so the chance of going into that is slim. And then using the integer division, I'm getting the correct value. Okay, so CEnt actually, let me just stop that, continue. So CEnt doesn't cut, it actually rounds up, which is quite it doesn't fit with what we're doing right now because we want fixed values. So what I did to fix it is I converted that to being integer, which means I had to also convert the instance variable to being an integer as well. So what now happens is, instead of giving me, this doesn't give me the point value, it doesn't give me the decimal, it just gives me the 1 or the 2 or the 3, and doesn't round up, which CEnt was doing. So that problem solved, but we haven't finished yet. So let's try finish quickly. So what we need to do is also display the total food that was fed to all the puppies. Now, that's actually quite simple. That's actually a lot more straightforward than you think. So dum total as double now. I'll explain why we're doing double. Because we want the total in kilos. Because remember, we can buy bags of food in grams. We've got to buy grams of food in kilos. So we need to know the kilos and buy the nearest amount of food. So let's just do this. For P as integer is 1 to number of puppies. We go total plus equals puppies P dot total food divided by 1,000 grams, 1,000, yes. No, which total are you talking about? I'm working on the total of the food. This has nothing to do with it. I thought you were referring to the total for each puppy. That's why I said no. Oh, it's your string. Remember, this total isn't to do with the puppy, it's to do with the puppies. This total is to do with the puppy. So you got to differentiate between all the puppies and a single puppy. The class can only work with a puppy. It can't work with more than one puppy. So the class, when you design it, works with a single, you have to work with in singles. When you work in the form, you can work with multiples. And here we have to work with multiples. And this should be in brackets, total weight. So that should give us the set application 2, 3, 100. A female 6 months 500, 750, 1000, 350. Then B male 5 months 6, 7, 8. Calculate, and that 0.12 kilos. So you'd actually just add grams. I don't know why that keeps coming up. Save all. Now we need to work out how much food we have to buy. Now this question does lack detail because it doesn't specify if we should calculate per kilo, but I'm going for the nearest kilo. How would we do that? That is fantastic. A student's asking for help while the tutorial's running in the virtual assistance lab. Genius. Okay. So from here, we would work out the total food to buy. Look, the question is a bit ambiguous here. I give you that because it says determine the total amount of food spent by the puppies that must be displayed. That also must be displayed. But it doesn't say if it is. Okay. Thank you, Mr. van der Westhuizen. Here it says per kilo. Okay, so we have to work per kilo. So we got to try to work out how to say. We're going to use a similar approach that we just did earlier to work out the puppies. This calculation, we can use a similar idea. Kg amount as integer equals 0. Now here's going to be interesting. Give me a second to think. Is this possible? This is possible, I know that. Cool. Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. I'll explain exactly what I'm doing, and you'll understand why I'm doing what I'm doing to work with the calculations. Kg amount plus equals total integer division by 1,000 if total mod 1,000 is greater than 0, then kilo amount plus equals 1. And we can say dim cost as double now. Cost equals kg amount times price. Txt total cost dot text equals price, giving you price of food equals convert to string cost. Okay, I don't have time because the tour is going to end as well. But what I did and what I've done is I've converted this back to being an integer. So when I display it, I'm displaying it as a kilo. So that's why I'm doing it divided by 1,000. I'm keeping it as an integer so I can use the exact same approach that we use to determine the amount of grams puppy must get to work out how many kilos. So this will technically tell us 1 kilo. So let's try it out. Someone raised their hand. You have a question quickly because we are running on time. Okay, a female, 6 months. Let's go with the same approach. B, male, 8 months. Let's just try to stick with a similar amount, 750, 800. So that's 0.2 kilograms, which is those two added together. And it is 100 Rand per kilo of food, so we're going to cost 100 Rand to buy the necessary food. Even though we're only using 0.12 kilograms, we still have to buy a kilo of food, so it's going to cost us 100 Rand. So that's what I'm trying to do here. In terms of calculation. So I'm keeping the total as an integer, though I'm displaying it as a kilo by doing this calculation here, dividing by 1,000. I'm displaying it as a kilo, but in the code, I'm retaining it as a value in grams. And then I'm using that value in grams to work on how many kilos it is. I could technically reverse it, but this is the easiest approach I can think of. Okay, that is time up for the recording at least. So I'm going to end the recording here.